Hi, am I on the air?
Yep.
Fuck.
Thanks.
I've been in the danger zone.
He got a bath.
Minus 5 stars.
Mango.
Huh? Yeah, we got to use that.
Jeff Harvey.
How much is a Skyway?
Play.
Play 21.
Fuck him.
Alrighty, y'all, what is going down? Welcome to Am I Still on the Air? Of course, you know it. It is the spin-off show of Am I on the Air, where we take one particular topic and we break it down. And so tonight, we've been talking about it. If you've been listening to the shows, you knew it was coming. Hot off the heels off the number one movie in the world is Furious 7. So I told you I was going to be getting together here with Geeky Pat, and we were going to be breaking down the Fast and the Furious franchise, talking about literally 1 through 7. I'm warning you right now, this will have some spoilers, so be forewarned. We are broadcasting live here in the East Wing of Red Dragons Radio Studios, and I'd like to welcome my guest here, live right next to me, Mr. Geeky Pat. What up?
What up, Geek Nation?
Geek Nation in the house. So, you know what it is. This series, man, has been going for quite some time. It started, with 2000, I believe, is when the first The Fast and the Furious movie dropped, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
it was a great film. I ate it up. It just at the time. I mean, racing was a big deal. My roommate at the time, one of my best friends at the time, was really big into import cars and doing up the NAS and the suspensions and doing all that stuff. So he was really big into the franchise and. We got introduced to Mr. Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, who at that time, I believe I'd only known him from Pitch Black.
That was it for me, yeah.
That was the only thing was Pitch Black.
Great movie, but yeah.
Awesome movie, yeah. So, I mean, I loved Vin Diesel in Pitch Black, so I was like, okay, cool, he's going to do this street race movie. It's going to be pretty tight. And Paul Walker is Brian O'Connor, and they had a good cast, little setup there, and it was an interesting concept, basically, like, you find out that Brian O'Connor's character is an undercover cop, and he's, trying to bust the street racing gangs, and that they're stealing stuff, and all these, big rigs are getting hijacked with, DVD players
that's right.
and CD players and all kinds
That's
of really...
important technology.
I mean, you watch them back now, and you're like, really? They were stealing this shit? But it was
$10 at Walmart.
it was hilarious. But we were introduced to Michelle Rodriguez as Letty and Mia, Dom's sister, which is funny. We were just watching the Everything Wrong with the first and Fast and Furious, and I forgot all about the Toretto sandwich shop.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, they had a business? They actually had a legitimate restaurant business?
I think they mentioned it too, like in the 7, right?
They did mention it, yeah. Like he said, it all started with a tuna fish sandwich or whatever.
He's like, I ate a lot of bad sandwiches.
Yeah, but I forgot that it was called like Toretto's.
Yeah. I wonder who runs that now.
Yeah, cousin Jimmy, cousin Jimmy Toretto runs it.
It might be those Brazilian guys. From
maybe that's why we haven't seen them since.
They run the Toretto's garage and sandwich shop.
There you go. So if you guys wondering where those two guys went from Fast 5, they're running the Toretto sandwich shop over in L.A. So real good movie, kicked off the franchise. Vin Diesel became a really big character. A real big actor after that point, and basically took off and decided not to come back to the franchise. He went and did Triple X, and he started doing all these other movies. Got a little bit too big for his britches there for a minute, and decided to bounce on the franchise, even though, number one, it completely ends with setting you up for a sequel. Paul Walker's character basically lets him go, and then there's an after credits scene that shows him going into Mexico and stuff. So you set up for something that never really truly happens. There is a little mini movie though, if you watch on the Blu-rays, I don't know. I don't remember if it's on the Blu-ray for the first movie or if it's on the second movie. But there's actually a little mini, like 10-15 minute movie with Vin Diesel that's kind of like what happened to his character in between films, which is actually pretty cool. So then we get a second film, and it's called Too Fast, Too Furious.
And it was.
It was Too Fast, Too Furious, directed by John Singleton, who took over the director's chair and, basically focused on Paul Walker's character going back home to Miami, Florida. Basically kind of on the shit list for the cops because of what happened in the first movie. They're kind of testing him. We get introduced in this one to Ludacris's character and Tyrese. Tyrese is supposed to be like an old high school friend of his, and they had a falling out, but now, they get cool again, and it is one of his oldest buddies. We get introduced to Eva Mendes in this one, looking so good. She was so hot in this movie. And Cole, I believe Cole Hauser is his name, but he played the villain in that one. I really like that guy. I wish he'd pop up in more stuff, but he was a really cool villain. Eva Mendes was an undercover cop. She was working with Cole. And then she kind of gets Paul Walker's character and Tyrese to help out to try to bust him. A decent movie, but for a lot of people, it's kind of at the bottom of their list when it comes to breaking down the franchise. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I was happy that Paul Walker returned.
It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a different take. It was a different scenario, it was a different scenery. I liked the addition of Eva Mendes. I liked the addition of Tyrese. I thought he was really cool in that. Ludacris was just kind of getting into acting, and he played his role cool. Although he wasn't really much of a hacker in the second movie.
He's kind of like a player, things that put things together.
Yeah, he
was
like
a shaker and mover.
He just put the races together and he collected the money, and somehow he became this awesome hacker.
Yeah, technology guy.
Good old Tej. But a fun movie nonetheless. I really enjoyed it, and I was excited where the franchise was going to go. We get that, and then before we jump into the third one, then we basically have nobody return for the third film.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll wrap it kind of for this segment with Tokyo Drift, and then we'll talk about all three real quick and move on from there. But Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift came out, and I was very shocked to see that no one was returning for this one. I thought for sure, the way number 2 ended, I thought, okay, we're going to continue with Paul Walker and Tyrese's character. And then nobody returned. And it was kind of like the studio made Tokyo Drift, and then to get some extra money out of it, they decided to throw the Fast and Furious name onto it, even though it really had no connection to anything. No. But we were introduced to the character Han, which we, of course, get way more familiar with in the following movies. Han was a great character. We get Bow Wow, and we get Lucas Black, as the main character in it, who basically is like a troublemaker in the U.S. His dad lives in Tokyo, and his mom basically at wit's end with him, ships him off to Tokyo to go to school out there and live with his dad to kind of learn how to be a better man. And this movie gets a lot of slack. I mean, a lot of people don't like this film, don't really think it fits with everything else.
I disagree.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, I'll sit down and watch it if it's on TV again. I have them all on Blu-ray, including Tokyo Drift. I enjoyed it. And of course, we were all very surprised to see the big cameo at the end. Mm-hmm. We all know Han dies in Tokyo Drift. And then at the end of the movie, Lucas Black's character is kind of like the shit now. He's the badass driver. And they tell him, hey, man, we got one more race for you. And he's like, nah, I don't want to race. And they're like, but he's a friend of Han. And then the black car pulls up, and it's Vin Diesel making a little cameo there. Which a funny little backstory on it. And I don't know if you remember me telling this story way back on Am I on the Air. But Vin Diesel, actually, to get the rights back for Pitch Black, did that cameo as a favor for Universal Pictures in Tokyo Drift. Like, they were like, hey, if you want the rights to Pitch Black, and he wanted to make another one, he wanted to do more with the Pitch Black movies, in the Riddick character. So they kind of negotiated that, and they said, okay, if you want the rights back, we need you to do this little cameo in Fast and Furious. And he was like, cool, I'll do it. So that's why he did that really weird cameo at the end.
And it was kind of weird.
It was weird. It felt a little
Forced.
forced in.
Yeah.
But it was cool because it was a Fast and Furious movie, and it kind of made you be like, oh shit, Dom, who we hadn't seen since the first movie. So it was a good little throwback. But I thought the franchise was over at this point. Like, I thought that was just a nice little closure scene. And you kind of got to, oh, look, it's Dominic Toretto, and he is in this world. And now he's in Tokyo, hiding out from the cops. You know, and that's just what you want to assume. And we didn't know Tokyo Drift would play a bigger part into the series as we moved on.
Or how far it really was removed from him.
Later down the road. So we'll get into all that there. But let's start here with the first three films. I'll go with you, Mr. Geeky Pat. Just kind of like, tell me, you know, back from number one, and then how were you really a big fan jumping right into it, and then excited for the sequels, or how did you feel with each one of these first three films?
I didn't really know much about like Paul Walker at the time. I mean, he was in some like, you know, like teeny bopper movies, you know, where he was the dick, you know,
she's all that,
things like that. And so I didn't really know him from anything else. So it wasn't like Paul Walker that dragged me to it. And Vin Diesel, I liked him in Pitch Black. I loved him in Pitch Black, but I didn't really know him well enough, so that's not what dragged me to it. It was cars. I love cars. I do. And I love race movies, and I love anything to do with like street racing and cars and stuff like that. So me and my buddy went and checked it out. We figured, hey, we're going to go check this movie out. And man, I was in love with it the first 15 minutes into the movie. And it was all, and even all the way up to the last one, it's about cars too. There's all kinds of cars in there, rare cars, not so rare cars, you know, pimped out this way or that way. And some of them are unrealistically pimped out or whatever, you know, but still, it's a blast. So I watched the first movie, and, you know, a lot of people walked away from that movie with all kinds of like, I don't think that's how that could have done. That's not how that would have went down. But you know what? I didn't feel like that at all. I walked out of that movie thinking it was the only one ever going to be made for it, even though there was a sequel like teased at the end. But I didn't know if it was going to go any further than that. You know?
Yeah.
And
I think they left it kind of
there was
more as a one-off, but with an option.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a ginormous hit.
And so I bought it, and it was great. And so I remember it was one of the movies I had in tech school. That and The Matrix. I bought them on DVD because all my stuff was at home and I was in the military. And I remember being in the day room every time I got there. It's like a little room where we all went down to in our dorms, and I would watch it like crazy. And like no matter who was there, they'd come watch it, and like it would draw a lot of crowds, even more so than maybe The Matrix, which was like just released at that you know, before that time, 1990, something like that, right? But
The Matrix was before.
Yeah, but still they just loved this movie. So I wasn't the only one. I mean, you got a bunch of these military guys who sit around and watch a movie. They have the opportunity to rent movies, do whatever. But I had the day room, so I put it in there. I'd sign up for it. And that's what I would do with my time, would watch that movie. And it was I really loved that movie. That and The Matrix were the two movies I'd always watch because it's the only two I owned. But I had to get that movie. And I remember thinking, you know, at the time, like, if they did make a sequel, you know, what would it be like? And me and this guy were talking about on the couch about it. And he had this great idea with Vin Diesel's character, and then maybe Paul Walker had to go hunt him down, and like, you know, but they had, you know, glad I didn't do that. But I had a love for the film right off at that point, and the characters. And really, I wasn't a big Paul Walker fan up to that point. I really didn't like what he did I mean, he just was not important to me at that point. And then at that point, it showed me, you know, this guy got what it takes, you know. I thought he did really good in the movie, and I really did like his character and the direction that his character was going. So when we get to the second one, it didn't hurt my feelings any that it wasn't about Toretto. It was about him, because honestly, through the whole movie, you hardly heard about who Brian was in the first one. So you always had, like, you know, he was an undercover cop, and all his bosses were buttholes. I mean, all of them. I mean, like, if that's how being an undercover cop is, I don't want to be an undercover cop, because they're like, we're going to put you in jail, and you suck at this, and we're pulling you off this, and like, he's, you know, what are you supposed to do undercover? I mean, they make it seem like it's impossible to do anything as an undercover cop, and it really makes them look like idiots all the time, and it was always like his fault. Well, those were bought VCRs, you know. Well, you should have done that. I told you not to go in. How's this my fault, you know? But so yeah, but I felt like they didn't really tell you much about Brian, and you knew about Toretto's history. He killed some guy with a wrench.
Mm-hmm.
His dad died in the blaze of glory, and you started to learn who Toretto was. You really didn't, and the Toretto family, but you didn't really learn who Brian was because he was kind of a fake person because he was an undercover cop. So you really kind of, the way he conveyed himself in the movie was all about his undercover persona. So it was really kind of cool for me in the second movie, so I'll just bridge over into that. In the second movie, to see that he was back in his hometown, he got to be who he wanted to be, who he is, and you got to see him play off somebody. Because, like, if I went to my hometown, there'd be people like that would be like, "Oh, I remember when you did this too." Like that was between him and Tyrese. I like the movie. I like the premise of the movie. I like the characters in that one. The bad guy was kind of. In that one.
I like Paul Walker. I think he's awesome.
I mean, I guess at the time he was awesome, but comparatively to the bad guys,
he was also in Pitch Black.
Yeah, comparatively to the bad guys we have now, though, I'm not as But at the time, I liked the movie. I liked the bad guy. I liked what was going on. I liked the little trickster. The scene where they all like go in that one warehouse and all the doors close. Oh man, that was so cool to me then.
All the cars.
Come out at once. Yeah. But you know what? You made me think about that. I really didn't realize that all he was, he wasn't a hacker in that movie at all. I can't even remember once. I'm trying to. He was never in front of a computer, was he? No. Not once. He was always like by the pool or hanging out.
He just collected the dollars.
Yeah, he was kind of like, no, I don't get in that. I just do this. Remember, I don't get involved. I just do this kind of thing. And I never really thought about that. And they really just developed his character like crazy at 5, right? Was it 5? Yeah. That's hilarious.
He learned a lot between movies.
Yeah, exactly. And he learned a lot between that and the last movie. But anyway, we'll get into that later. But no, I really liked it. And so it wasn't such a bad thing for me that he wasn't in that one. I did want to see him. At that point now, I was invested in Paul Walker, though. Like, I feel like he was the star of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, because he carried over, right?
Yeah.
And whether or not Tyrese and them went with them, that's fine, because it was kind of like for that movie, right? That was their hometown.
As much as people want to say they feel it's a Vin Diesel, driven franchise, I always felt like it was more Paul Walker's franchise than anything else because of the fact that he stuck around for 2. I felt like the story in number 1 was heavily on his story.
It was
being the
him.
Undercover cop, going after, getting Toretto, getting everybody.
Making that moral choice at the end.
2 was all about him. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that, now the franchise is as much Vin's as it is Brian's, but
even then, when they both came back to the franchise, not counting the end of 3, but when they both came back to the franchise, it still was about Brian. It really was about. And then if you go to the end, which they needed to make this last one about Brian a little bit, but it kind of like this is where the torch is handed off from Brian to the rest of the people. I mean, neededly so because he passed away.
Yeah.
But also, they did it so beautifully that it was like the end of Brian's part of the story. Does that make sense? I hate that I said that. Sorry, but I really always felt like it was from Brian's perspective, even through the rest of the movies. When you go, it's really kind of about him all the way through the movies. So much so that like Vin Diesel purposely lost the race or whatever with him, and the kids.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. You know what I'm saying, right? I mean,
all right, Tokyo Drift.
All right, so Tokyo Drift. I didn't know what I was getting into when I got in this movie, but I just actually started watching drift racing on the internet at the time. So when they said Tokyo Drift, I thought that was a coincidence that I saw this, and it was Fast and the Furious. I was going to go see it. I actually didn't know who was going to be in this movie. I thought Brian was. And then I saw the trailer, the first trailer. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know who this guy is.
Any of them.
I didn't even recognize that he has the coolest. Lucas Black sounds like a character out of Harry Potter, but he has the coolest name. But I didn't know who he was. No. And I had seen Sling Blade. But I had no idea who he was. That's how unimportant.
Was he really a Sling Blade?
He's the kid in Sling Blade.
See,
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I thought you just said it as a joke.
No, he really is. So, and because of that, I didn't know who he really was. And he was younger in that movie, so it wasn't like I was going to recognize him anyway. So I mean, okay, well, it's a Fast and Furious movie. I'm going to watch it. I was surprised how much I liked it, and how likable Han was, and how much I gave a crap about this guy and his situation and his dad, and
And the chick,
And the
Lucas
chick,
Black
yeah.
likes. Oh my god! Probably the hottest in the entire franchise.
I would say so. I would
was
say so.
blown away by
Yeah.
that girl that he fell in love with. Of course, that just happens to be dating the biggest gangster
Yeah,
in Tokyo. Because that's the way it happens
Yokosa.
in these movies.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I-
you like her? That's my girlfriend.
Yeah, you must die. No, I mean, and then Han's character was interesting because I couldn't really tell if he was a good guy or a bad guy or both. And this franchise is interesting that way because everyone's all like, "Oh, the cops are the bad guys." Honestly, if you think about it, all our heroes in this show, I mean, these movies, are literally the bad guy. They're thieves, they're robbers, they're, and apparently they don't care about any collateral damage. People are like, well, they wouldn't care if people got hurt. Why would they? They're not good people in that sense. They're good people to each other, and we get endeared to them because of the whole family aspect. They become like our family too, like we'd want to be part of them. I would love to go hang out with the Torettos and be accepted into that family, right? But honestly, if you sit back and look at the story as a whole, they're kind of douchebags, so you shouldn't be liking them, but you do. So what does that say about us, I guess?
Yeah.
And so Second gave me this purist, Tokyo Drift gave me this purist look at the whole thing because they were out of it. And he wasn't a good guy, but he wasn't necessarily a bad guy either, right? He didn't really break any laws other than racing laws.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like a thief. He wasn't like a cop who gave up the thieves or, anything like that. It was just this guy who was having all kinds of adolescent issues, and he got shipped off, and he's trying to fit into a new culture. And that kind of resonated with me because I'm a military brat, Everywhere I went, I had to fit into this new culture and find my way with new friends and find my way into things.
Yeah, me too. I was right there.
Which is probably why we're so personable. Like, we can make friends pretty quickly. But, so it resonated with me as a person, as the character. I was like, hey, I remember what that's like. And then, of course, I never got hooked up with the hot girl with the bad guy boyfriend. I mean, whoa! But again, and then you had Han, and I liked Han, but I had no idea how big his character was going to be.
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
No.
And then he died. Mm-hmm. And so, which
was sad.
I hated that he died because at the end he was like the guy who gave I'll give him a chance. And he crashed his car and he was like, yeah, it's just a car. There'll be more cars. He wasn't this, but he worked for the bad guys kind of, So I didn't really know where he fit in. It wasn't until much later I realized who he was and how much I really liked his character. The sad thing for me about it is I really want to see more with Lucas Black. I wanted to see him in some of the other movies and franchise, and I get that. I was always wondering, what happened to him? Why isn't he here if Han's here? But it made sense later on that the timeline didn't add up, right? Unless he got in trouble with them and got sent off. But it wouldn't have worked out that way. He would have been So it's an interesting movie in the sense that it is part of the universe, but it has a different tone than the rest of the movies.
It's like the Guardians of the Galaxy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, it fits in.
It's in the world, but it's a little bit detached.
Different. Yeah, exactly.
From the rest of it. So basically, we had these three movies, and like I said, after Tokyo Drift, which didn't really bomb, but it wasn't a very big hit either.
Sure.
I mean, it was just kind of like, I think it made a little bit of money, and then that was about it. It pretty much was the nail in the coffin for the Fast and Furious franchise. I thought it was done. No more. We are over. And then a couple years later, we find out they're going to make number 4, and they got the entire original cast to return. And I remember being so giddy about this. I was like, what? For number 4, they got everyone to come back?
Except for Lucas Black.
Yeah, well, we found out later about that. But,
Yeah.
but you're reading about it, and you're like, Vin Diesel's back, Paul Walker's back, Michelle Rodriguez is back, Jordana Brewster is back. Like all of the original core group was back from the first movie. And that was the big deal. It was the first movie core group back. And it was just like, oh my God, that's incredible. Because not very many franchises do you have, 3 movies and everybody kind of drop out and then come back together later on. And I remember even reading an interview with Paul Walker where he was saying when they first came to him about doing number 4, he was like, nah, that's played out. The franchise is over. And they were like, no, dude, we're going to get Vin back and we're getting everybody back. And it made him more intrigued to want to do it. But when they first asked him, he was like, nah, I didn't do Tokyo Drift because I'm done with this.
I didn't want to hitch myself to this wagon.
So they came back, and I couldn't be happier. And they did number 4, which was titled Fast and Furious, just like the first movie without the.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing you got to keep in mind. The first movie is the Fast and Furious. The fourth movie is just Fast and Furious.
Which I liked that they did that.
Yeah, it was okay. Like I thought it should have been like something else with the 4 in it, but it was cool. I mean, it was kind of like a soft reboot of its own self.
Yeah.
You know, like, and they'll even tell you sometimes that it was like its own little trilogy, starting over again. So, you know, and so I'm watching 4, and it was incredible. I mean, I was just so happy about 4. I'm sitting in the theater, and it was so much better than I had hoped it to be. Like, I was just like, it was better than the first movie, and it was better than the second one, the third one. And I was like, damn, they not only came back, but they came back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And they brought it, and they made it just awesome. Like, Brian's character is back to being a cop. You know, Vin Diesel's off doing his own thing. He's still kind of laying low because he's still wanted. Michelle Rodriguez's character ends up, what we thought, dying in the film. So
kind of working for this other jerk, right?
Well, yeah, she's working. Basically, you find out she's working undercover for Brian, kind of as an informant, working with these bad guys, Braga.
But you don't know that in the beginning.
You don't know in the beginning, but
Yeah.
you find out, like, basically she's doing this for Brian. She gets, you know, basically blasted off the side of the road. The car explodes. She dies. Everybody's at her funeral, this and that. Vin Diesel ends up coming back because of this. And he goes to work for Braga, kind of undercover, just to get his hands on the guy that killed Letty. And therefore, of course, Brian's trying to go undercover. So they come back together, and they hate each other when they first come face to face. There's a nice big fight with those two. And, you know, they still trying to mend the fences from the first film. But it was so cool to see everybody together. Seeing him get back with Mia, and then we saw Han. Han is in this
And you're
movie,
like, what the?
and from the very beginning, and we're like, how the fuck is Juan in this movie when he died in the last film?
Yeah.
And you know, so then you find out when number 4 came out, they were very quick to come out and say Tokyo Drift is out of sequence. That film in the timeline had not happened yet, and that you need to place it at the end. So we're like, okay, cool, that makes sense, you know? And so you find out why. It made it a little bit clearer why Vin Diesel popped up in that little cameo at the end of 3. Because you're like, oh, he did it for Han. Han was his buddy. He was in his crew. Very cool. What I also loved about that was they played with that. Like there's a scene with Vin Diesel and Han on the beach in the beginning of number 4, and Vin Diesel saying, you know, the cops are kind of closing in on us. We got to spread out. We got to separate for a bit, you know, kind of lay low. And Han's like, you know, I hear Tokyo is pretty cool around this time of year, you know, so like they kind of plant the seeds a little bit that he wants to go to Tokyo, you know. We're also introduced in this film to Gal Gadot for the first time, who is now Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman. So crazy how much she's blown up because Fast and Furious, the 4th film, was her first film.
Because I didn't know who she was till then.
Yeah, so she shows up, and she's kind of like a bad guy in this one, but then, of course, she falls for Vin Diesel, and she's kind of the love interest with him, because Letty's dead, so, of course, we gotta have a love interest. And, you know, this movie was just awesome on all counts. In the end of the film, Vin Diesel basically ends up getting arrested. You see his trial on there, and then you see he's on the bus, and they're taking him to prison. And all the cars come over the hill, and you see Mia's driving a car, and Paul Walker's driving a car, and they're just like getting ready to like ram this bus. And the movie ends there, and you're just like, holy crap! Like there's gonna be another one. They're already planning on another one, and they left it off just so perfectly to do a 5th. And I just remember just being so like, oh my god, that ending part that they were going to go bust Vin Diesel out. And it's just 4, like I said, when it came out, I was just so impressed. It was my favorite movie of the bunch, and I was so happy everybody was back, and it worked so well. What'd you think of 4?
Yeah, up to that point, it was my favorite as well. I think that, you know, the fact that Han was introduced was a big thing.
Yeah.
It was big to me. And I remember thinking, this is BS. Han's dead. How are they going to say, is his brother? Is it, you know? But when they did, like you said at the end, I really thought the next movie was going to, I put at the end of that franchise
and
was.
That's what,
yeah, and then why they were busting out Toretto, he was dying in Tokyo Drift. We found out otherwise, which is still great. You know, it was not only just fun, it was, it felt familiar. It felt like I was coming home again.
It felt good.
Yeah. I mean, because not that, like I said, I like Tokyo Drift probably more than most people did, but it felt more like, oh yeah, because it was such a gap in between the movies too. You know, like I almost thought it was a rumor when I first heard it was coming out. You know, I didn't want to believe it, and then when it was coming out, I was like, I was there. You know, and I remember I don't work for the company anymore, so it's okay. But I called in sick to go see it, and I think I watched it twice that day. So I watched it the first time, and then I literally called my buddy and was like, this movie's really good. And he's like, oh, I wanted to see it too. I said, well, get down here. We'll watch it again. I literally watched it the second time. And so the second time through, I was looking for other stuff, you know, little Easter eggs and things like that, but I didn't find any really. But it was really good. It was, not only did I like the fact that, like, the chemistry wasn't like, it could have been easily just Brian and him like, yeah, what's up? We're back again. Hey, you know. But the chemistry was there, but it was like two alphas in a room, you know, like, hey, you screwed me. And then there was a point where the bad guy's like pitting them together, you know, like whoever gets here first. And like Brian has to get there for his job. Like Turner's got to get there so he can get revenge on the girl he loves, you know. So it was like this interesting dynamic they had with the two characters, which really kept me on the edge of my seat because for the first time, I wanted both of them to win. You know, it wasn't like a movie where you're like, it's like you and the good guy and the bad guy, and you're like, oh, I hope the good guy does it, right? It was like, oh crap, who do I root for? Because, you know, I don't want Paul to lose his job again, you know, and I don't want Vin Diesel not to be able to get revenge. But then I thought, if he loses, he can still find a way to get revenge, and Paul can keep his job. And I didn't know if Vin Diesel was going to say, you know, like throw Paul under the bus, like he's a cop.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I didn't know.
You kind of waited for that. Yeah.
I was waiting for it, you know, but it never happened like that. But it was just an interesting dynamic just with those two characters. So it was like a great movie in that aspect. But then you had Han back, and so now you got to see more about Han. And I was, like I said, I really liked Han. I didn't know much about him, and now you really get to see that he really is a good guy, and he really is this way, but he works around scumbags. That's why he was so used about it, right? And Gal Gadot in the movie was pretty hot. I remember thinking, she's pretty hot, you know. I still didn't see her when I was Wonder Woman when you told me she was Wonder Woman, but after I saw her in her suit, it was all good. But and then there was also who was the other character? There was a guy that was in there too with them, like it was competing with them. Another guy competing with those two.
Well, the one that killed Letty?
Yeah, what was his name?
I don't remember.
I don't remember now either. And he was a
black guy with like the mohawk.
Yeah, he was a pretty interesting guy too. So it wasn't like it was like, you know, sometimes you get a movie and like the bad guy isn't all good, but everything about this movie was even like, oh man, and then you wanted him to die and you wanted everyone else to die, and I really thought Letty was dead at this time, so it was really fantastic. And then that end scene when they're all, because I thought this was it. This was the last movie. There wasn't going to be another. They came back for this one big hurrah, and then they go, it's a 4-banger movie series, and duh. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, there's going to be another. You know, and then at the end of the next one, there's going to be another. You know, it was like this, it was so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool, and you know, thank God it was a really big hit. People were invested in the series again. People were excited that they brought the original cast back.
Yeah.
It was a big, big hit. So, of course, we got number 5 a couple years after that. Fast 5 is what it was called. And for me personally, this is my favorite of the franchise.
Yeah, me too.
Like, it's hard because 6 is like
Close.
Like right there. I mean, it's so close.
Neck and neck.
But 5 is just... 5 came out. And like you, I think I saw 5 like 3 or 4 times in the theater. Like I was like, I gotta go back. For one big reason, of course, which was the addition of The Rock, who we all know. You know, Rock is one of my favorite actors in Hollywood, and bringing him into the franchise at the 5th one, but he was the cop. He was this character Hobbs that was going after Dom and trying to get him and his crew, and was going everywhere to track him down. So in 5, we not only get everybody back again, but this time we continue to bring people back from the other franchises, and we get introduced again to Tyrese and Ludacris from number 2, which was awesome because they end up working together. Now, of course, we know at this point Brian O'Connor is no longer a cop because he is now wanted for helping bust out Vin Diesel at the end of number 4, which I love the beginning of 5 because 5 picks up literally at that spot.
That scene.
They ram the bus, the bus flips,
over.
they get Vin. It was so awesome. They go on the run, Fast 5, boom, here we go. They go to Brazil. They're laying low in Brazil. This is Brazil. And, it's so good. They're on the run. We also come back to, I forget his name, but the dude from the first Fast and Furious comes back too.
The bearded guy.
Yeah.
He was the jerk face.
He was the asshole who picked the fight with Brian in the first movie. Yeah. So he comes back. He's got a pretty big role. Yeah, he's got a pretty big role in number 5, which was another cool throwback to bring back another character from the past. Everything in this movie was so high octane. All the scenes with The Rock chasing them. Oh yeah. We find out that Mia's pregnant, so she kind of sits out the film a little bit. Paul Walker's going to be a dad, and we also get introduced, and I forget her name in the series too, but the cop that's working with The Rock, and she ends up becoming the love interest of Vin Diesel. She's actually Mrs. Thor. She's married to Chris Hemsworth in real life. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's his wife. And
someone's got to be. Might as well be her.
Yeah, she's hot. And so we get another character into it, and 5 was to the fight between The Rock and Vin Diesel, and we got to see them like kick ass at each other and everything, and then basically they end up working together at the end. They pull off this big heist trying to rip off this big drug smuggler like in Brazil, and they we get the awesome chase scene where they're dragging the safe through Brazil.
It was
and
awesome.
It's just,
I don't care what it is.
Physics or not, it was an amazing scene.
Yeah.
They're flipping this safe around everywhere, and of course they end up pulling this like switcheroo under the bridge, and they take all the money, and they all become multi-millionaires. An excellent film. They end up putting a team together, and that's why we get Ludacris back as the hacker. We get we get Tyrese back. We get Gal Gadot back from number 4. We get Han back, of course, from Tokyo Drift. So you get like all these guys returning. The 2 Puerto Rican dudes from the Fast and Furious 4 as well. And once again, it relied on the fact that we're family and we're looking out for each other. It's another one that they tease Tokyo Drift in at the end when everybody's kind of off doing their own thing. At the end, Han's got this badass car and he's driving down the freeway, and Gal Gadot's in his lap, and they're making out while he's driving down the freeway. Yeah. And she's like, "So where do you want to go?" And he's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, don't you want to go to Tokyo?" And he's like, "We'll get there eventually." And you're like, "Damn, still no Tokyo Drift. What is going on?"
So is that the next movie?
So then they leave it so open again, and then this one actually had an after credit scene that brings back Eva Mendes from number 2, and that's a great thing that this franchise has done, is like how they just bring back these characters out of sequence from different movies doing different things. You see Eva Mendes, she's reprising her role from the second film, but she's working now like with The Rock's character. So she hands him a file, and she's like, "Hey, check this out. Do you believe in ghosts?" And he's like, "What?" And he like flips through the file, and it shows a picture of Michelle Rodriguez, Letty. And you're like, "Oh my God, Letty's alive!" And then you're like, "Number 6 is coming!" Yeah. And you're just like, "Oh my God," because you were so blown away by how awesome number 5 was. I couldn't even wrap my head around a number 6 coming now. I was like, they're going to continue to do these? Like, this is incredible. We couldn't get these guys to come back for 2 and 3, and now they're doing 4, 5, and 6. And it was just so nuts, man. So, like, from beginning to end, the addition of The Rock, we saw that the team aspect worked so much better in this one. Fast 5 took a little bit of a twist and became kind of like an Ocean's 11 movie. Yeah. Like it was like, like having like the hacker and the driver and the this and the that, and like everybody played their roles, and
it worked well.
Getting the dude's handprint on Gal Gadot's ass in her bathing suit, like it's just like all the pieces coming together, and it was just so awesome. Of course, getting The Rock and having The Rock kind of become an ally by the end of the film, becoming like almost like friends with them, at the end of the film, saying, "I'm going to give you 24 hours to get the hell out of here, but then I'm coming for your ass," and then you're like, "Oh shit, better get on the run." But then I'm thinking like, "Oh, number 6, he's going to be chasing them again. It's going to be awesome."
Yeah.
5 was just so incredible. 5-star film all the way. Favorite of the franchise. I never thought they'd be able to top it. Which I guess in a way they haven't, but they've come so close. And I mean, 5 is just such a beautiful action movie that I've seen a dozen times. Absolutely loved it. What did you think of 5?
Well, considering I started this whole thing out because I wanted to see a movie about cars and racing. Like, I really didn't care who was in it, right? Because, again, I didn't know who Paul Walker was. By this time, this movie changed everything for me. It was more about the team. It was about the family. It was about the people. And the cars in it were still really cool. Yeah. I mean, still really cool. But it became, to me, this time, something I was locked into. This was my universe. This was what I wanted. I was invested. And, again, I saw this movie twice. Not in the same day, though. But I did see it in the same weekend twice. And it was, oh man, and The Rock was relentless in that movie. Like, again, it gave me a conundrum because I was rooting for him to catch them, but then I was rooting for them to get away. You know, and that fight scene with him and Vin Diesel, which I believe The Rock would have won. But anyway, the Vin Diesel, it was still really good. It was the fight I wanted. Yeah. When the movie started, I was like, oh, they're gonna fight.
they're like throwing each other through walls and everything. I mean, it was a manly man's fight.
Yeah. So it was like this intense. Everything about the movie, the best word is intense. It was all intense. I like what they did with Mia because with all these characters, she really was the one that didn't fit in. You know, she didn't really have a purpose other than she was Toretto's sister and Brian's wife, right? So getting her pregnant was a great out, and later on worked out even better going down, especially with things that happened, unfortunately, with Paul Walker. But I felt like it also grounded this family together with a kids ground family. Sometimes families don't work out till kids are around, you know? And then you get grounded because you have these kids. And I felt like there was the moment Toretto realized his role changes a little bit. You know, like he had, you know, he's trying, you know, Brian's in Brazil with him, and they're on the porch talking about fathers. You know, they're talking about like Vin's like, you need to get out. You need to be out of this. You know, I'll give you the money. You know, whatever. I think he lives in
one last ride.
Yeah, one last ride. I'm always thumping. Anyway, so no, I mean, he says. You know, something along the lines of that, like, you know, you got a family now. You don't need to be doing this anymore, Brian. You know, and he's like, I don't know, I'm not going to be a good father. And they had that whole conversation, which gave them a human or more human side to them. Like, they were more than just these criminals, these guys who were exciting. Now it was the first time I fell in love, I think, them as a whole, you know, instead of individual characters. So you had that. It was also... From this point on, I realized that every one of those people are going to come back for the next movie. You know, when they came back for this one, and then they're going to go into, you know. So I was excited about this ongoing universe. And this is before Avengers and all that, right? This was something that I knew that could go a long time, and I feel like it's still going to. And the scenes, the action scenes were intense and over the top, and that's a good thing. It's what I wanted in that kind of movie. I don't always need grounded, you know. Yes. It's just real physics for a car. Get over it, okay? Yeah. Who cares?
It's an action
awesome.
movie. Let's just enjoy it.
But you said something that was very interesting. It was the first time that like everyone had a purpose instead of just kind of like they were doing their own thing. Like they all had a goal and a purpose this time. Even from breaking Toretto out to running away to, you know, running from, I mean, everything in the movie, they all had a reason, and I liked that. I liked that aspect of the film. It changed from just being this street racing movie to a these guys are it. These are the team. This is the family. They're better. I mean, we even talk about later on where they're like, why do these guys keep getting hired by the government? Right? But I mean, it was the first time you introduced them as their specialties, you know. Even though I still don't know what Tyrese's specialty is other than his mouth.
Talking.
Yeah, talking.
That was his thing. In 5, that was his thing. They sent him to the police station and said, "Get this box in the." You know. He's
like the. He's
just the fast talker.
The heister.
Like,
the huckster, the con man.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was really cool. Everything was really cool. The villains, everybody was really cool, and really, it is my favorite. I think when I think I'm going to watch a Fast and Furious movie, I think I start at 5. You know, then I go watch whatever I want after that. It really is my favorite. And 6 is good, and 7 was awesome, but 5 is probably still my favorite.
Yeah, so 5 really took it to another level, and then so we knew we were getting number 6, and 6 came out, and like I said, I mean, 6 for me is like, it's almost like depends on what day it is. which movie I like more. You know, like it could be Tuesday, I'm like 6 is the best, and then Wednesday I'm like 5 is the best. Like, because they're literally that close with each other. 6 brought everybody back again. It basically, we got Luke Evans this time as the bad guy, which I'm a big Luke Evans fan.
Too.
Love the guy. I think he's very underappreciated in Hollywood. He's an awesome bad guy. He's an awesome good guy. Whatever they want to put him in, the dude's awesome. So he's the bad guy in this film. He's this, special agent, special forces, ex-military guy, really smart, powerful. We get introduced to the Rock's character again. This time he's got Gina Carano with him, which was a great addition to it. Love Gina Carano in action films. Wonder Woman. Yeah, we all did. And although she's not the greatest actress, so I can understand why they didn't go with her. But
true.
But physically, yes. So we got it all together, and basically, the gist of it is, The Rock goes and finds Vin Diesel, and he tells him, first and foremost that Letty's alive, which we find out in that stinger in part 5, and Vin's like, what? Like, I can't believe that. This is crazy. And he's like, I'm telling you, man, she's alive. And she's running with Luke Evans' crew. I need to get Luke Evans' crew. He's been dodging me like crazy. I need your team, Dom. And then basically, so they recruit Vin Diesel. He brings in the team of everybody from the last movie. Everybody comes back, and and this is where we see, like, Vin Diesel goes and he talks to Brian O'Connor, and he tells him, like, I got to go do this. Letty's alive, and Paul's like, Letty's dead, Dom. Like, what if, The Rock's character is just kind of playing you, to come do this for him? And he's like, well, I got to see for myself. And, so he's like, I'm going to come with you. And he's like, no, you got your kid now. You should leave this one out. And that's where they kind of started to plant those seeds of leaving Brian out of it. But, of course, they kept the family thing. No, man, if you're going, I'm going, ride or die. Like, that was always the theme. So they all go together. Of course, Mia kind of sits it out again. She's like, oh, you go do what you got to do. Come back to me. Yeah, I got the kid. So everybody comes together. And that's basically the gist of the film, is to basically bring down Luke Evans' character and his crew. And then Vin Diesel, all he really cares about is getting Letty back. You find out that Letty survived the accident from number 4. But basically suffered amnesia. Like, she lost her memory, and then got recruited by Luke Evans and his crew to kind of, like, be with them. She doesn't remember anything. So Vin Diesel spends a lot of time, he even gets shot by her in the film, and he spends a lot of time trying to get her to remember, like, hey, I'm your boyfriend. Like, you've been with us for a long time, And I thought it was a really cool way to work her character back in. I think when they killed her off in number 4, she was having a lot of Hollywood troubles. Like, she was one of those, like, getting drunk, getting in fights, and a lot of people were afraid to hire her.
Yeah.
So I think they wanted to hire her in 4 because it was so big on, look, we got the original cast back, but then they were afraid of going farther with her, so they're like, but we're going to kill you off in, like, the first 20 minutes of the movie. But then she kind of got her shit together, and she got better, and then she sat out number 5.
Yeah.
And by the time 6 rolled around, I think they were like, okay, cool, she's doing pretty well. We'll give her a chance again. So they wrote her back into it, which I thought was great. The only thing that drove me a little nuts with 6 was the fact that The Rock's character is now with Mrs. Thor at this point. I mean, they literally, like, there's like a sex scene in the beginning of the movie. Like, they're all sleeping with each other, all naked. And then that's when Rock shows up and he's like, we need your team, Dom. And then, like, he just leaves her there and then, like, bounces to go find, he's like, oh, fuck this chick, I'm just gonna go find Letty,
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, really? Like he just was that quick to just, like, leave her?
Not even know that Letty was alive.
Yeah,
just to
like,
go see if she was alive.
Yeah, and I mean, to try to play it off, they had Mrs. Thor there be like, if she's alive, you have to go see, like, because she talks in 5 about how she lost her husband, and she's like, if it was my husband, I would go look for him, so you got to go do what you got to do. So they try to play it off a little bit, but I just kind of was like, man, in real life, though, like, would your current girlfriend be that cool with you going to look for your, like, last girlfriend? No, not at all. So that was a little bit of a stretch, but whatever.
Not even she was at the mall.
Yeah.
I didn't have to risk my life to go do it. Like, I just got to go see her at the mall.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm coming with you.
Yeah. So that was a little bit, but this movie here, man, it had so much action. It had such great scenes. They really took everything to another level.
Yeah.
This is where the Fast and Furious kind of took its leap towards the real unbelievable, like the big highway chase scene with the tank and everything. It's running over cars and smashing everything. And of course, we had the big massive scene where the tank flips and Letty goes flying, and Vin jumps out his car and he grabs her and they smash in midair into another car, and you're like, they would have died in that very scene.
Yes.
All their bones would have been broken just the second they smashed into each other. But you got to take it for what it is. It's an over-the-top action film. It's awesome. But it was pretty hilarious, though. I remember when the scene happened in the theater, I think everybody started laughing because it was just kind of like, really? And when you think about it, it was a crushed-up Mustang that made the tank flip, and it really makes no sense because the tank way outweighed the flat little Mustang. So I don't even understand what they thought doing that.
Tank wouldn't have even hiccuped.
Yeah, but it was such a cool flick, and then we had the little twist of Gina Carano was working with Luke Evans the whole time, so she switches sides. Letty ends up, after, of course, getting saved by Dom, working with Dom's team again, saying like, "Oh, okay, I feel like this is right. This is where I need to be." And of course, we go to the big runway scene at the end. The big plane's trying to take off in the world's longest runway we've ever seen. I mean, this runway, I think I saw somebody break it down one time. The runway would have had to have been like 10 miles long or something like that for this.
Which
scene.
just isn't practical for any runway, dude. I mean, there's.
It wasn't. It was just funny, but the scene just goes on and on and on of this plane on this runway, and you're like, is it ever going to take off? And they do kind of play little things, like they say, like, oh, we got too much. Excuse me. that we have too much weight. We've taken on too much weight. Yeah. But the plane never turns or anything. It's not like it loops around. Like,
which would have worked out better. Yeah, because you can off ramp a taxi and taxi back on.
My only explanation for that scene is I always tried to tell people, like, I felt like it was filming a lot of different angles at the same time, and that was all going on simultaneously. You were just seeing it in different chunks. Like, here's on the right wing, here's on the left wing, here's what's going on inside the cargo bay. So like it felt really long because you're seeing all these scenes play out in sequence, but technically all that stuff's happening at the same time. That's what I assumed out of it, because there was so much going on at the same time. But a great scene nonetheless. Gina Carano gets flown out the plane and she goes flying to her death. There's a big ass fight like on the plane, and Vin Diesel and The Rock actually do like this double tag team WWE maneuver, which was awesome. And everybody's fighting, and you see Mia's back because they kidnapped her. We do get the loss though of Gal Gadot's character in this scene. Yeah, like Han's holding on to her, and they're fighting on top of the car, and the car's got the harpoon through the wing, so the car's kind of just dangling there, and she, and Han's actually about to get killed, and she lets go and jumps off the car and shoots the guy that's about to kill Han and saves his life, but then she falls to her death. So we say goodbye to that character. And then of course the plane finally crashes, it blows up, and Vin comes blasting out the front of the plane in the Charger, which is just incredible. But then it flips and it's going down the thing in a fiery blaze, but he's okay because it's Vin Diesel, and everything's okay. They all get their pardons finally for doing this for the government and claiming this chip back that Luke Evans was going for. So they're allowed to go home finally. They go back to L.A. They go back to the original house that number one took place at. Shop. I don't know. Maybe that was a deleted scene with the sandwich shop. But they go back home and everything. And Han's really depressed. And they're like, "What are you gonna do?" And finally, he's like, "I'm gonna go to head out to Tokyo." And you're like, "Finally, Tokyo Drift is coming into play."
And then we found out where it fit.
Yeah. So then he finally is depressed, and he doesn't have Gal Gadot anymore, so he's like, I'm just gonna go to Tokyo, and they say a prayer, and number 6 ends really, really sweet. Everybody's back together. It ends the way number 1 really kind of ends in a way, or a scene from number 1 where they're all around the picnic table and celebrating. Then we get the after credit scene, and I was so giddy when I saw this, because I didn't know how they were gonna. I had heard the rumors that Jason Statham was going to be the bad guy in number 7. Yeah. And I was like, how are they going to do this, and what are they going to do? And the way that they took a random scene from Tokyo Drift, they basically took the exact scene out of the movie of Tokyo Drift where Han dies. If you've seen Tokyo Drift, and spoiler alert, obviously, they're street racing, and Han gets T-boned by another car, and he dies in Tokyo Drift. So it's showing the end stinger picks up, boom, Tokyo, Japan. It's that street race, and you're like, oh, this is the scene where Han dies, and you're like, what are they gonna do? And then you see, boom, he gets T-boned, and then Jason Statham gets out the car. And you're like, holy crap, like they somehow worked it to where that was on purpose, where it was a totally random accident in Tokyo Drift. But they took that, they twisted it, and they made Jason Statham get out the car. He did it on purpose to get revenge. Calls Dominic Toretto, you don't know me, but you're about to. Throws the car down, the car blows up, boom! Yeah. Han's dead now, and you're like, holy shit, number 7's gonna be awesome! Yeah. And you just, every time they keep leaving you, like, the next one's gonna be incredible. So 6 is so awesome. I was happy to see that Tokyo Drift finally played in to the storyline at this point. We've caught up on the timeline finally, and now number 7's actually in a proper sequence. So number 6, where were we at with you?
So I got in line for this movie. We were gonna go see the 10:30, whatever, or no, it was 4:31, the second showing. And we get in line, and me and Evelyn, and I'm waiting. And by the time I move, it was a huge line. I move up, that show gets sold out. All right, so I guess we're gonna go see the next one. That's so. By the time I get up to the last showing, was the only one that wasn't sold out. We're talking 8, like I don't know, 5 or 6 hours later that day, right? So we buy the tickets. This is the opening day, so man, it sucked. But when we got there, we saw the movie. So we got into the theater. It was packed. Like we had to have someone move so we could sit together, and they did. They moved, and so we sat together and we're watching this movie, and it was so much energy. Like everybody was so excited about this movie, and I was too. And then. It was like a nonstop, like, oh my goodness, oh my what, oh my goodness, you know, it was just like, you know, and then like the twists and all the storyline. It was like everything that was cool about some of the James Bond movies. It was everything that was cool about like certain action movies over here, and it was like all slammed into this movie. Everybody again in this movie did very well. Luke Evans was awesome in this movie. I thought it was odd. I felt. It was odd when she was like, if it was my husband, you should go. I did feel odd about that. It makes sense. We find out in 7 why that would kind of make a little more sense for Toretto to be like, peace, right? But you really don't know what happens to her either, which bugs me. We don't know she is in this franchise right now, do we?
Well, she was in 7.
Yeah, but I mean, like, not really with them in 7, you know.
She's a cop.
Yeah,
she worked for The Rock.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I kind of wanted her to be more involved.
Well, yeah, I thought she would because, like, I mean, she was such a big deal in 5, and then like 6 and 7, she's just so like cameo appearances.
Yeah. And
you know,
it
so I don't know why she doesn't.
Movie
I
or
don't
something.
know why she doesn't. You know.
Yeah, so it was kind of weird in that aspect, but back to the 6. 6 was not only just the ride of my life. I mean, I love 5, but 6 was like everything I expected it. Then that's when everything started getting. That end scene just became so fantastically action-packed. Like, I mean, it was like, oh, that's going on there. Oh, awesome, what's going on here? And then The Rock and them are fighting, and I didn't expect anyone to die, to be honest, in this one. And then when Gadao died, and the way she died, I was like, I felt so bad for Han.
Yeah.
Like, they built it up. Like, her and Han were in so much love, and then, like, Han died.
But you kind of almost saw it coming because she wasn't in Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
so you knew you didn't have a girl.
It's true.
So,
but I wasn't thinking that way, you know.
Yeah.
And when she died, I thought, well, that makes sense. But, wow, right? It was just a shock. And I don't want to spend too much time on 6. We still have all 7. But I thought the ending... Again, they just stepped it up one more time during this movie with that ending, and I remember thinking, "Oh, now they legitimize Tokyo Drift. They legitimized that whole movie, and 7 even more so. They kind of they legitimized what happened. They now like brought it back into the family a little better, and so I liked that because I did like Tokyo Drift." And so
it's always the bastard stepchild of this franchise.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see them be like, look, this movie did happen, and it is a part of our universe.
Yeah, you need to know what happened to Han, right? Yeah, so it was really good. And to make a long story short, I can see why it sold out so quickly. I mean, just by word of mouth. I mean, the first movie obviously got boom, because by the time I got there to see the second showing, like I said, at the Harkin I was at, it sold out.
Yeah.
In that 25 minutes.
Well, this movie box office wise, like I said, 4 brought it back,
Yeah.
and then 5 took it to the next level, and then 6 took it even higher money, and now 7 is just killing it all. So it's like this movie, like usually when films get to their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th film,
it's like Jaws.
You're talking about
no
Nightmare on Elm Streets and
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, and the money kind of goes down.
Yeah.
This is money getting bigger each time. The film's getting better in people's opinions.
I think it modernized it for other people too. Like, if you think about it, there's people who watched this movie who wasn't alive when the first one, or wasn't old enough to even see movies when the first one came out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. And
so old.
And really, really, you either liked those 3 movies or you didn't. It was a very polarized audience.
Yeah.
It wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
And then 5...
A lot of people will tell you they weren't even fans till number 4.
Yeah.
And then it was 4, 5, 6.
And now I'm at
kept
work
it
saying I'm
going.
going to go see 7, and there's people who are like, "Oh, I'm going to go see 7 too. It's awesome. Don't tell me about it." And one guy's like, "I just went and bought the whole set all the way up to it to go see him again." And so before I go see 7, so I think 6 really made it even. It stepped it up to people who maybe wouldn't even went seen 4 or 5 because they didn't think it was all that great of a franchise, and 6 made them go, "Oh, I need to go back and see these movies."
Yeah.
You know, I think it made it more
did.
modern standard now for those kind of movies. And if I remember, there was all kinds of like B race movies that came out after 5 and 6, right? I mean, like all over Netflix, you know. That it started as genre of video games. It started as genre. Those last 2, 5 and 6, started things where it was like this game's just like Fast and Furious. And even now with 7, I got a little mini game, a mini adventure game on my Fast and Furious, on my Forza Horizon 5, Forza Horizon 2. I mean, it's a whole game based on it, you know. And I think that it's changed the way people see these movies and view these movies. I think they are the racing car standard. I think people go, "Well, that's not as good as Fast 5," you know. It could have been a great movie, you know, but it just didn't live up to these movies.
Yeah, so, you know, we get left off in a great place. We know Jason Statham's coming. The only downside really going into 7 was that the director, Justin Lin, who did actually number 3, 4, 5, and 6, decided, I need to take a break from this franchise. That's all I've been doing. I'm car crazy. I need to step away for a little bit. So he stepped out. He's actually going to be directing Star Trek 3 here coming up, which I think he'll knock out the park.
Yeah.
So they get James Wan, which James Wan is a good director, but he's a horror director. So like
it was kind of odd.
He did The Conjuring and he did Insidious and, you know, Sinister, stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that's an odd choice, but, you know, whatever. He's a competent, up-and-coming director. Obviously, they know what they're doing. Cool, go for it.
It would take a lot to screw up the success at this point. I don't think they would let him, you know.
Yeah. And the thing was is that they were fast-tracking 7, like, big time. Like, 6 had just finished. I think 6 came out the summer of 2013, and they said, summer 2014, Fast 7. Like, literally a year later, and they had no script, they had nothing locked in, but they were like, we're getting out number 7 ASAP. So they jumped right in, they started filming. The Rock is not in this film very much, and it's because at this time, they were fast-tracking everything so fast, he was filming Hercules, actually, when they did Fast 7 originally. So he's kind of, they did the typical kind of, hey, he's in the beginning of the film, he gets hurt, he's in the hospital for most of it, and he comes back. They Terry Crewsed him out of, like, Expendables, you know, which they've done in a million TV shows and stuff. Like, if you got somebody that's a very limited schedule, just hurt him and put him in the hospital for most of the film. So, unfortunately, that was the biggest downfall of number 7, is not enough Rock. Because he has an awesome fight with Jason Statham in the beginning, you know, and then they lay him up, and he's pretty much out of commission to the very end.
And he's cool in the end, too, though.
He's great in the end. I mean, he steals every scene that he's in. It just kind of sucks that because of how fast they were trying to do this movie, they didn't have time to do really anything more with him. So they're filming, and they're bringing in some new people and stuff. And unfortunately, as you all know, Paul Walker passed away. So he gets in a car crash, actually in real life, which was the shocking part of all of this, and passes away pretty much instantly from a car crash. And so production gets halted. They don't know what they're going to do. I remember when he first originally died, they said he had filmed basically like 50% of his role.
Yeah, which worried me.
Yeah, which I was like, ugh. So they were like, so we don't know what to do. Should we scrap everything and start all over again and rewrite the script and just write him out of it? Do we try to reuse some of this footage? But that was the hard part, was that movies are filmed out of sequence. So they've already filmed the ending with him, and they've already filmed the beginning with him, and they filmed middle stuff with him. So how do you work that all around and not have him in other stuff? It was very hard. So they shut down production for a while on this film. Obviously, it did not come out in the summer of 2014. It got halted back.
Which was devastating in one way, too. We lost Paul Walker, and then we lost the prospect of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we were originally going to get now. I
didn't
love
even
to
know
see
if it was going to be done. At one point. I remember at one point we were talking, and we didn't even know if they were going to be able to make this movie now. Or if they were going to make it.
Right, if they were going to finish it. We didn't know. My original idea was to just kill him off, and not to be mean or cold or anything.
But it felt like in character.
It felt in character. It felt right. I would have had him die heroically. Like he would have, saving Mia, like whatever. Like she's trapped in a building by Jason Statham, and he runs in there, he saves her, and then he sees Jason Statham, so he goes running after him. The house blows up, whatever, and then he dies. Obviously, I would not do it in a car crash. I would do it, like something like that, where he dies, for the family. He dies doing something heroically, but they didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't want to do anything that was looked at as, blasphemous or or digging for money. So they really sat and they looked everything over. They looked over their existing footage. They tried to refigure things out, which last I heard recently was they said that when they really did comb over the footage, that he had actually filmed like 85% of the whole movie, which is a big difference from saying he'd only done half to 85%, where like he pretty much was done. Which they said that he had done, that he had at least filmed all the big action scenes. So, like, they only had to fill him in on some of the little dialogue stuff. So then we found out that they were going to move ahead with what they had. They pushed the release date to August of 2015. And then they brought in his brothers, which was a real nice, touch. His brothers were pretty much the same size and look of him, so they brought them in to do like background shots, like behind the head shots, fill in some little filler shots, and then also use them for a couple shots where they CGI'd Paul Walker's face kind of over their body, which is really unique. So I heard they use this really cool camera kind of dome technology that scan the whole face and kind of puts it over. So we get 7. It was sad how this all came together, and I'm like, watching interviews with the cast and everything, and they're all crying, and Vin Diesel's so broken up still about this, but the movie finally comes out, and you laugh at me, I keep talking about South by Southwest, but like, South by Southwest actually did the first screening of it a couple of weeks ago. They did a surprise midnight showing and like got a standing ovation, and everybody was like, incredible. And so the movie comes out last Friday finally. And we all went and saw it, and I mean, it was incredible, man. Like the way they pulled it off. They added Kurt Russell this time, which was awesome. Yeah. Great addition. He's going to play bigger roles in the future films. He plays this character like Mr. Nobody, another secret government kind of. Almost, it reminded me of like Mr. Church, like Bruce Willis's role in the Expendables films, where it's like, I'm going to put this together, but you don't know who I am, And we got everybody back again from the other films. We got introduced to a new hacker girl who I think will probably be a part of the series kind of going forward. We get Letty, who's still kind of trying to deal with her memory stuff, but she's more involved with the group this time around. We actually get Vin Diesel. The house blows up. They get a package from Tokyo. The house blows up. He finds out that, that's when he gets the phone call in the movie, which is the stinger from the other film of him saying, Dominic Toretto, you don't know me, but you're about to. So he finds out Han's dead. He goes to Tokyo, and then you actually get the Tokyo Drift scene, which is the end of Tokyo Drift, where they're like, hey, man, this guy wants to race you. He's a friend of Han's. And you get a brand new scene with Lucas Black coming back, talking to Vin Diesel, saying, like, hey, this was left at the crime scene, and it's his chain with the cross and, all this stuff, and a picture of Gal Gadot.
And I didn't get what the cross meaning really was either at that time.
Well, remember that was Vin Diesel's necklace, and when Jason Statham blew up the car, he threw the necklace.
But I'm saying I didn't at the moment in that scene. It didn't register to me what that was. But later on, it did.
Yeah, I mean, he was showing them, I'm coming after you and your family, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was a personal setup. you know, he knows like, oh man, this guy's stalking us, you know, and real creepy scene in the movie of them at the funeral, and Tyrese is like, I don't want to go to any more funerals, man. Like, this has to be it.
And then Paul Walker's
like, oh, we're not. You know, oh, there's going to be one more. His. You know, and I'm like, no.
When he said there's going to be one more, though, there was a pause.
Yeah.
It was like, oh. And that was really creepy when we saw just that scene at the end of 5
Yeah, the Fast 5 or the Fast 6 Blu-ray has that scene on it as like a first look at Furious 7.
It came out, and then like he died that week.
Yeah. So it was kind of creepy that the scene they chose to include to show us was a funeral scene with them saying, "No more funerals, man. No more funerals, Brian. Oh, there's only going to be one more." I was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, so you're waiting to see how they're going to play this thing out. We assume that there was an additional kind of dialogue there of Mia's character saying she was pregnant again, which we pretty much assume it was like an addition to the script to kind of add in more of that family aspect of like, hey, you got more family now on the way. You really need to, you know, do what's best for family. You know, so they're trying to get Jason Statham's character. Jason Statham's going after him. Jason Statham's character, by the way, if you didn't know, is the brother of Luke Evans' character from number 6, which was done very smart. Luke Evans even has a little cameo at the beginning. He's actually in a coma. He's not dead, which leaves the door open just a tad. You know, and even in the end, when they get Statham.
I think that's hey, this is going to be the next movie kind of thing.
I hope it is. And even if it's not number 8, I hope number 9 is the return of the Shaw brothers.
They just do it so often in this series that I feel like that they have to do something.
They have to. There's a reason that Jason Statham's character was not killed. Yeah. And there's a reason that Luke Evans' character is not dead either, because they played it off in the trailers and stuff that he was dead, and then you see he's in a coma. And even when Rock first meets Jason Statham's character, he says, "I'm looking for the team that crippled my brother," and he says crippled. He doesn't say killed my brother or anything, you know. And so, just the thought of Luke Evans and Jason Statham working together, like coming after them, makes me so happy. So I hope that they go that route. They'd be kind of stupid not to, but they leave the door open, definitely, especially with Kurt Russell's character, who definitely likes working with Dom and his crew, and I think that they're going to work together in future missions. But, you know, we got Tony Jaa in this film.
He was awesome.
I forget how to pronounce the guy's name, but he's the Who guy in Guardians of the Galaxy. Digimon Hansu or whatever. You know, like you get so much in this film. Brings everything back together. We get scenes in Abu Dhabi. We get the car jumping through different rooftops, which was awesome. You know, they took the action in this one. We thought the tank scene was crazy. They took this one to a whole nother level. Yeah. Of course, dropping the cars out the back of the plane, cars jumping the buildings. I think my favorite was Vin Diesel doing the Hulk smash on the parking lot and making it actually crumble. Because he's so strong.
You know the part.
About street fights? The street always wins. Stop!
And it collapses.
You know, running the car off to hit the helicopter.
I thought Statham was dead.
Yeah, I thought he was crushed.
It's all walking normal.
Yeah. And of course, you know, he runs the car off the top of the parking garage as it's crumbling to throw the grenades up on it, you know, and then, you know, just so much stuff. Way over the top. I mean, this one's more over the top than any of the other ones combined. I mean, Vin drives off a mountain at one point and literally tumbles down the whole thing. Nothing's left with the frame of the car. By the time it hits the bottom and they climb out okay. Not even a scratch, which is awesome.
Well, she lost her shoes.
Oh, she did lose. She lost one shoe.
So
it was a little rocket.
Come on, that wasn't perfect.
But Vin's cool. Like I just want Vin to be bleeding and have a black eye once. Just please, please. He's always perfect. You know. But once again, we this has become almost like a comic book franchise at this point. The action has become comic booky, but we like that. We look for that now in this franchise. We want to see how they're going to top it. If number 10 of this franchise does not end in space, then they've missed the mark here. Because we got to have Fast and Furious in space. So we'll fast forward a little bit, 20 years in the future. They've now, Dom and his team is needed by NASA to go after, you know.
We need someone who can ride fast on Mars.
Yeah, you know, who can factor in gravity. You know, so this franchise continues to blow up. But let's talk about the ending of the film. I mean, you know, obviously they had to change the ending. They had a completely different ending in tow, a different stinger attached and everything. And instead, they decided to scrap it. They go to the end. They're on the beach. And, you know, Paul Walker's character is playing with his kid and his wife. And they're on the beach. And basically they almost do a one-on-one shot of like Letty, looking at them playing, and Ludacris and Tyrese, and and Vin, and all kind of like tearing up and crying and basically saying goodbye to the character. At this point, Vin Diesel's already talked to him and said, like, this has to be your last ride. Like, now you have 2 kids on the way. You have 2 kids now. You're married to my sister. You got to take care of her. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep putting your life on the line. Yeah. You need to step away. And he understands and he does it. So the whole beach scene, you can tell, was probably a scene with his brothers, doing the stand-in for him, picking up the kid. You didn't see his face too much in those shots, but it was a beautiful shot. And Vin Diesel walks off, and he kind of leaves the beach, and he gets in his car, and he's driving off, and he's at the stop sign, and a white, what kind of car was that? It was like a Mazda or something. A white Mazda pulls up, and it's a CGI'd kind of Paul Walker. It's actually using the clip of him in Fast 5 when they do this, when they all race in the cop cars. Yeah, in Fast 5, it was that exact frame and scene. But he looks over and he's like, "You weren't going to leave without saying goodbye, were you?" And Vin like kind of laughs, and then they start racing. And it's kind of got this monologue playing in the background of Vin Diesel talking about saying goodbye to family and like, "I'll see you again, my friend," and all this kind of stuff. And they're racing and driving, and you're trying to listen to what like Vin's saying, but it's so like touching. And then they hit a fork in the road, and the cars spread off into the different directions.
His fork's going up towards the sky.
Yeah, and his comes off, and the camera kind of follows him, and then pans up into the sky, and the movie literally ends there with the "For Paul" on the screen at the end, and it was perfect. And I know we all sat there and we're waiting for the after credit scene, and then there wasn't one, and we're like, bullshit. But like looking back on it, it's like they made the right decision, I think, because it wasn't. And I've read some articles, and I read something that Vin Diesel said where he was like, we needed the ending to just be about saying goodbye to Paul. Like, it wasn't about where we're going next in the number 8 film or anything like that. This isn't even about any more films. This is about saying goodbye to Paul. And they did it perfectly. I mean, like, I felt like a dick for saying they should have killed him off like all those times, because this was perfect. This was a perfect goodbye. Yeah. It's still going to be hard for me to believe that when they get into a twist in these other 8, 9, or 10s, because they do plan to do 10 in the end, that there's 3 more movies to do, and now we've kind of got closure here, and I think the next 3 will kind of be their own kind of trilogy. It's going to be hard for me, I think, to still think, like, why, like, just call Brian, like, I'm help, like, knowing he's still technically out there, it's going to be hard, where I think if they would have killed him off, it would have been just kind of like, well, he's not there to call anymore, his character's gone. Yeah. But this was a beautiful send-off. It was so respectful. You saw how much everybody loved him and how much everybody cared about him, and just having that scene of him pulling up next to him and just being like, "You weren't gonna leave without saying goodbye, were you?" And like, it was just so perfect. Like, thinking of the ending of that movie just gives me chills, and it's like, like I want to go see it again, like right now. Like it was so good. Overall, it's my 3rd favorite of the franchise. Like, I would go 5, 6, 7, kind of in order. And that's not knocking 7 in any way, because, like I said, it's still a 5-star movie.
Still action.
They're all 5-star movies to me, and it's still everything you want out of a film. It's just, the other ones just kind of just touch it a little bit, but it's hard to argue that ending of that film is not the best. And, and seeing they do a little montage kind of thing at the end too when they're racing, which is showing all the highlights of all the other films.
Paul
and
Walker's
them together, and then Vin Diesel's toast in Fast 5, where he's like, it's all about everybody that's in this room right now, everybody's family.
Because those Puerto Rican guys.
It's the Puerto Rican guys who we never saw again.
Yeah.
But it was so beautifully done, and it really left that film as a perfect closure. If they decided to never do a number 8, it's the perfect ending to this franchise.
Yeah, it really locks up what happened in the story of Paul Walker. Mm-hmm. It really could just end there. I think it allows them to also still keep his character engaged too, because like maybe in this next one they're like, so how is Paul? I mean, have you heard of Brian lately? And he's like, oh yeah, maybe they have another kid. They're doing fine. It was twins. Something along those lines. Where now he's really bogged down. Like, he can't leave her with twins, right? I mean, They could really make it.
If he had that many kids, he'd want to leave to go help them out. He'd be like, "Is there anything I can do to help you, Vin? Come on, Dom, I got to get out of this house. They're driving me crazy."
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, right? They really can make him.
could.
The happy ending could end in every movie with him if they bring it up. You know, he's doing good, or he's working for this company now, or whatever. And so I liked it, but I also like how they kind of hand. Because to me, again, this whole thing is still about Paul Walker. If you look at all the movies from the beginning to this last one, it's Paul Walker's story, and this is the people that are involved in his life, except for maybe Tokyo Drift. You know, so that does throw a wrench into the whole thing. But this time, it was almost like now the story. He's gone off to do his thing, and now the story has now been handed over to the rest of the cast. Now it's their story going from here. So it was like a perfect ending, almost like Star Wars in a way. The first 6 movies, whether you like them or not, is about Darth Vader, right? And Luke and being part of all, and then the family of Darth Vader. And after that, it moves on. It's now everybody else's story at that point. And so I think that this is a perfect way to end the Paul Walker Saga version of the Brian story. I also like. I wanted more Rock. Don't get me wrong. I do like what they did with the Rock. The Rock Bottom was awesome. I do like that, but I like the action scenes, the way they were shot. And maybe it's because he was a horror director that actually worked. But there's scenes where like the camera spins with him, not like a shaky cam. I hate shaky cams, and there was one shaky cam in there. But I hate shaky cams. But this one was like when they get hit and they're tumbling over and like it tumbles with them, and the car tumbles, and the guy shot action so well in this one that I think he was the right choice to take this over. I mean, his direction, his point of view of everything, his eye for everything was good. I felt the only thing that was kind of getting old was the passing the girl off during the helicopter scene. Like I kind of wanted that to end a little sooner, you know. But it allowed for the Rock to come in with the ambulance and the
woman. I am the cavalry.
So I mean, it makes
I
sense.
still want a Hobbs spin-off movie. That's
Wouldn't
what
that
I've
be
been
awesome?
saying. It'd
You
be directed by Michael Bay. Let's get the Hobbs spin-off movie. It's just gonna be awesome action
Just
of
explosions
him busting
everywhere.
out criminals. It's gonna
killing
be great.
people and busting out criminals.
I think they did.
Now,
So
everything about the movie, from the opening to the closing, was tight, neat, and wrinkle-free. You know, there wasn't anything. The death scene was a little over top. Maybe it was the only thing. Maybe I was like, ooh.
the what?
The Vin Diesel death scene.
No.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah,
But I appreciated the fact that he was at least dead.
Yeah.
And he didn't just like get out of the car like, all right, guys,
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Pour some
worked.
dust on his forehead.
You know, it's like at least he kind of got hurt in that one a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
It's still no blood. It's still no black eyes. But,
yeah.
you know, at least a broken arm would have been cool. But at least he was dead for a minute.
But I felt like none of the whole time I was in the movie, I kept forgetting to look for the scenes until afterwards we talked about it. I thought about them because it felt so natural with the Paul Walker. And I forgot that this was his last one.
Yeah,
and then
which is good.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very good.
The movie just flowed so well. Even like they even made the scene where the Rock gets blown out the window more impactful than it did in the trailer. You know, where he was saving that girl.
Right.
Yeah,
He was saving Mrs. Thor, which is something you don't see in the trailer.
and so it made it even okay. Now I'm okay with him getting hurt and being out of the movie because he did it in a heroic way. So when it got to the end of the movie and it got to that scene where they're
Daddy's
all
got to go to work.
breaks the cast. But when it got to the end of the scene, all that was closed up before it got to that scene. Do you know what I'm saying? So it didn't seem forced. It seemed like, okay, now they're just chilling after all this.
Yeah.
And they're on that beach, and Ludacris is like, shh, look at that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, hey, you guys, that was a great movie, but look at this.
Right.
You know, that was
Take this in. This is what it's all about, right?
Yeah, it didn't bring me to tears, but I was on the cusp. It was very touching. It was very, oh yeah, this is his last movie. This is it. I mean, up to that, this was a Fast and Furious 7, and it was fast, and it was furious, and it was awesome. And then you get to that, and it's like, oh, right?
Yeah, reality sinks in, and it's not just a movie character anymore. I mean, you know, like, this dude died, like, last year in a very horrific way, and, like, this is true. We really are saying goodbye to this dude,
Yeah,
you know?
and
like,
these are really his friends.
Yeah. you
Saying
know?
goodbye to him in this movie. Not just the characters, but the actors are really his friends.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye to him in this movie. And it really wraps that series in a way that you're like, wow, that was a powerful ending, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry they just ruined that all for you. But,
Hey, we warned you. Spoiler.
yeah, I mean, like, I want to go see it again.
According to the box office, everybody's seen it by now.
Yeah, exactly.
148 million in 3 days. Just to put it in perspective, no film in 2014 made over $100 million in its opening weekend. And that made 148. It is the biggest opening. It broke Captain America the Winter Soldier's record for the biggest April opening of all time. It's already made $400 million worldwide. This could be the first one to hit $1 billion if it keeps it up. And honestly, for the most of April, there's nothing really big until Age of Ultron on May 1st. So this movie could literally dominate for 4 weeks, just bringing in 20, 30, $40 million every week. It's going to make a lot.
That brings up a point I want to address. Somebody we know, I'm not going to say who it is, made a comment that kind of bugged me. That when an actor dies in a movie, people go see it and it makes lots of money. I don't really feel that this was that. I'm sure it had some of that aspect into it. But I feel like the franchise and the work of Paul Walker and everything up to that made this movie. People would have saw it anyway. I think this many people would have saw it anyway. I think the difference.
I think it increased the box office maybe by 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's drastic. Like, this movie was going to make over $100 million regardless.
Like I said, it sold out in 6 before I even got to the
because
box.
each film has gotten better and better and better,
Yeah.
and that's the trajectory that movies have at the box office. If your previous one was a really big hit and everybody loved it, everybody's going to be waiting to see what the next one is. Yes, you can't deny the fact that there's going to be people that were fans of it, but were curious to see how they handled the Paul Walker thing. So they went and saw it. There's going to be an increased boost, but not enough to be like, this movie would have bombed if, like,
if
he wasn't.
It sounded like
If he
it wasn't
on
going to do well if he didn't die,
You know?
and that bothered me.
Yeah.
I felt like Batman 2 wouldn't have done as well if it wasn't for the death of Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Right? That's an honest assessment. This, I don't. When the way he said that in there, I don't. He meant it totally innocent.
Yeah.
But I felt like no. I think this movie would have done just as well if that didn't happen. I think 8's going to do it. It's going to knock it out of the park just the same, whether it's a good movie or not. People are still going to all rush to go see 8, and he's not going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So, which I'm hoping Lucas Black is.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Lucas Black, I mean, you know, we talked about him. He's got a little tiny role in number 7. Like I said, he pops up kind of in a continuation of a scene from Tokyo Drift, but we're in sequence now. I mean, so it's all lined up. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that he can't. I think the only problem that lies is the fact that in Tokyo Drift, Lucas Black is like 17 years old. So if he just immediately comes into the franchise. The dude's like in his mid-30s now, so it's not like it's that easy. I think, honestly, that Furious 8 will play it up as it's 5 years down the road. Now, people didn't even know, but this Furious 7 is supposed to be like 3 years after Furious 6. I mean, if you look at Paul Walker's kid, who was a baby in number 6, the kid's walking, he's like going to kindergarten, like
Which is one of the
it's
greatest
years later.
of that minivan.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the kid's bigger. It's 3 years later, so they don't mind doing little time jumps. You know, so why not time jump a little bit more? Lucas Black's character comes back to town. They need to beef the team up at this point. We've lost Gal Gadot. We've lost Han. We've lost Brian. We've lost the 2 Puerto Rican dudes.
Well, because they have to run the sandwich shop.
All we have is Tyrese and Luda and Letty and
the new
Dom.
girl.
Well, yeah, and the new girl too, but she's another hacker. We already got hacker.
We don't know
They
if
need
she's
to
gonna
beef
be in
this
the
up.
next one,
So I think I could see Lucas Black's character coming back, going to L.A., meeting up with Dom, you know, and being like, you know, hey, like, you know, is there any work I could do for you, whatever, and kind of being brought into the team. I think The Rock's going to play a bigger role, you know, whether it be like his company works with Kurt Russell's company or whatever, and they're kind of doing a mission together. Whatever the case may be, we're hearing little rumors now that Eva Mendes may return for number 8, which I think would be a great addition as well, because I thought she'd be in 6 after the Stinger.
Yeah, me too.
In 5, and then she wasn't, so I think she'd be a great addition. I want to see a little bit more of the other characters kind of brought back.
But there was no real stinger in this one. So
No.
they have the opportunity to choose whenever they want to start it. And they can even start it where Lucas Black is with one of them doing something else.
Yeah.
You know? And so it doesn't even have to be him, like, coming into the scene.
I think it would play the story better, though, if you see him kind of come back and kind of like,
Yeah, I get
hey,
that.
Dom?
But, like, he could have been working with them for the last 5 years on something. Or, you know, with one of them. Maybe, you know.
But the whole point we're time jumping is to get him older.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they don't want to work with the little 17-year-old kids.
True. So, yeah. But, I mean, they have...
Maybe Bow Wow will come back.
Yeah,
I mean,
they, have they have opportunities, though.
In his little Hulk Scion.
I love that Hulk Scion, dude.
You know, so the future is out there. There's been no green light on a number 8. I just want to say, like there's been discussion. Vin Diesel has hinted. He was on Jimmy Kimmel last week, and he said, you know, we're talking about doing number 8. We're talking about going to New York, bringing Kurt Russell back. They said Kurt Russell's character, they just wanted to introduce in this one, and that they got big plans for him in the next couple movies. So he's a big new addition. The whole Eva Mendes news, and if she'll come back, she's going to be a big part of that New York storyline. If she doesn't, they're going to twist it a little bit. So because they're not sure 100% she'll come back or not. But I think they need to beef it up a little bit more. I think, you know, bring in another big actor or somebody else into the ensemble. They need to beef the team back up now at this point because we're killing everybody off. But like we said, I mean, if they ended at 7, beautiful. I want to see more. You know,
Yeah,
even though I'm so sad that Brian O'Connor will not be a part of the group, I want to see more. And, you know, just give me the little nugget of like, hey, if you talk to Brian, yeah, he's really cool, man.
Yeah,
the kids are doing
yeah,
great.
nod at him.
Oh, it'll be cool. Like, it'll
Yeah.
feel good because, yes, he's still out there in this world. And it'll be a nice throwback. And I'm curious to see where it goes. I know the studio, before his death, unfortunately, wanted to finish at 10. They wanted to go all the way to 10. They're kind of hanging back on this one. We know Justin Lin's about to do Star Trek, so there was rumors that he may come back to do number 8, but now he's doing Star Trek, so he's out. Justin Lin was going to do number 8. He signed a 2-picture deal, but because Fast 7 was such a process, and it took him like 2 years to finish this film because of the death, they let him out of his second contract, and he's going to go direct to Conjuring 2 now. So
Which I'd rather have Fast 8. Anyway.
So we have no director, we have no script, we have no story, we have ideas. Vin Diesel's hinting at stuff. Obviously, they're going to make it. It's like I said, $400 million in 3 days, ladies and gentlemen. The studio will not let this slide. We're going to get an 8.
But you're right.
But they also said,
end it, it's good.
They also said everybody's contract is up too at this point. The Rock is not under contract anymore, so he's kind of like, they got a good role for me, maybe I'll come back. So he's kind of on the fence. Everybody else is on the fence. They said some of them might not feel comfortable coming back without Paul Walker's
It'd be
character.
hard if you think
They
about
said like some of them are kind of like, maybe we should just end it at this point. So I don't know who we're going to get back in the next one. We know Vin's going to be back. I think Vin will want to do it for him. Like he would want us to keep going on this.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the franchise will continue. Who's involved? Where it goes, we don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I saw they said they were going to probably have a meeting by the end of the month. So we'll probably by May have word if Furious 8's coming or not. But
and to be fair, I mean, if you just lost a guy you worked with for 3 movies and you became good friends, it's hard. You can't be hard on them for feeling that way. You can't be like, well, I don't know if I can do this without him because I don't know if I could do This Week with the Geek anymore if you were to pass away tomorrow. You know, it'd be hard for me. It would be like, you know, who's running Red Dragons? Who's doing this? It'd be a big major difference if one of us passed, right? Mm-hmm. And imagine if you were in the middle of shooting with this guy. Like you planned on, we're going to take a little break. I'll see you next week. And then you're at his funeral. Yeah. You know, I mean, for the studio saying they only have 50%, their mind probably wasn't on what was left of that movie at that time. You know, so I can see where they came from 50 to 80 because they didn't go look at the footage at that time. They went to a funeral. They went to dealing with the grief of this too. So it's a bittersweet kind of thing because I want 8. I'm selfishly want 8. Yeah. You know. But then I get where they're coming from in a heart standpoint.
Right. And like I said, if they choose not to, the franchise just ended perfectly.
Yeah.
So we can't fault them for that. But we all know better. We know Hollywood. We know they want to make some money.
Yeah.
They're a film company in the end. And as long as Vin Diesel's coming back, they're doing another one. So he's the producer on it. He's the guy that's kind of spearheading everything. So if he's on board and he wants to continue doing them, which it seems like he does, he was pretty upbeat about it on Jimmy Kimmel. Like, he wasn't kind of like, well, we'll see. He was like, we're talking about New York, we got Kurt Russell. Like he knows what's up. So it seems like the plan is continuing to chug. So, well, that's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, it's been fun reminiscing these 7 amazing movies. You can get... There's a couple different box sets of them that you can get through Amazon right now. There's a brand new one they just released that's actually like a big tire, and all the discs are in the tire, and it actually has an empty slot for number 7 when it comes out, so you can have a complete set till number 8 comes out. So I'm gonna, even though I have them all, I'll probably wait till I know 10 is it. Yeah, and then I'll get the big 10 movie box set that'll probably be in the shape of a car.
What's sad is I'll buy them all up to that point.
Exactly, and I'll continue to buy them just like I do with Marvel. Like, I have all of them on Blu-ray, then I got the Phase 1 box set. And I continue to buy all Phase 2, and then when the Phase 2 box set comes out, I'll sell them all to you. So, but it's a great franchise. They ended it perfectly. Number 7 in theaters now. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it. It's an amazing 5-star action film.
Loved it.
There's no reason you shouldn't see it, especially if you're a fan of this franchise. All the movies deserve a watch, even Tokyo Drift. And yes, and I always want to tell people, there's a lot of people who've been asking, how do I watch these films? And so once again, watch it 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3, 7. All right? So watch it in sequence. It'll make a lot of sense to you if you do. Because Tokyo Drift feels very out of place if you watch it in order, if you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So take 3 out of the mix, watch 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, then the new one. Go from Tokyo Drift straight to the theater, and it'll all make sense to you.
If you're listening to this a year later, and then 8.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on when you're listening to this, then go watch 8. And then 9, and then 10.
Depending on when you're listening to this.
And then 11 with Fast and Furious, Jack's return. When his son is old enough to take his daddy's place in the franchise.
The reboot. The relaunch.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been Am I Still on the Air? Geeky Pat, where can people find you on the interwebs?
RedDragonsRadio.com. 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 Also on Geeky Pat. Geeky_Pat at Twitter, and let's just leave it there.
So you can follow him on Twitter at Geeky_Pat. And, of course, you can listen to his shows, which is This Week with the Geek and Out of the Riffs on RedDragonsRadio.com. You can also hear him along with me and Peeps on our other show, Red Dragons Assemble. Awesome. So go check that out if you haven't. Big 3-hour second episode up on there that just came out in the last couple weeks. You can follow me on Twitter at DXDonMega. You can follow Am I on the Air on Twitter at Am I on the Air. Like us on Facebook. Follow on Twitter. You can go to amiontheair.com. Listen to this show. Listen to Am I on the Air, which the latest Am I on the Air episode talks a little bit more spoiler-free review of Fast and Furious 7. It's called See You Again. That's the name of that episode, so check it out. And bookmark amiontheair.com. And, of course, RedDragonsRadio.com. Once again, if Geeky Pat hasn't said it enough, it's RedDragonsRadio.com, where you can listen to Am I on the Air? Am I Still on the Air? Red Dragons Assemble, Out of the Riffs, This Week with the Geek, The People's Forum, and a ton more shows. So check it out. So we will catch you next time. I'm assuming probably our next big Am I Still on the Air is going to be for Avengers. I think we're going to have an Avengers Age of Ultron spoiler review, probably with everybody, because we're going to go do the big double feature in IMAX, and we're very excited about it. So we'll probably get the whole gang together and assemble on that one and break down how awesome that's going to be. Very excited. So till then, keep checking out all the programs on Red Dragons Radio. Follow on Twitter at Red Dragons Radio so you know what's going down. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Red Dragon.